So we had a change of plans here. Instead of butt welding the square tubing to the round tubing, we've now decided to put in a cross member in the frame there at that joint. So just finished up welding in that piece. That was just an old chunk of scrap tubing that was lying around. I'm fabbing up this bar here to tie into the frame, and then we're going to use this little turn in this metal piece at the top of the basket, and I'm going to put a slot in this piece so that it'll just slide on like that basically and tie into the basket that way. So yeah, that's what we're going at now. Almost forgot to mention the highly professional slotting job in this, done with the good old Harbor Freight angle grinder. So we got the side supports for the basket notched, and we got them tacked into place on the frame, and everything lines up pretty well. So yeah, calling it a night because it's late, and we'll get back at it tomorrow. All right, so I got an axle tacked together, the front axle. I got just the brackets tacked on there, and I got it ground down, and we got the frame up on the table flipped over, and I got the spots ground down where we're gonna weld it, and then put the axle in here, something like that, and yeah, just tack it into place, start to get an idea of how all the steering's gonna line up. So yeah, that's what we're doing. Got the front axle tacked on and calling it a night. So we've decided to make the back half of the frame out of one continuous piece of tubing with some notches cut in it. And so yeah, we're giving ourselves a little bit of extra length. So we need a 6-foot segment because each side of this U-shaped piece of the back of the frame is going to be 24 inches each. But we're cutting out like 6'3" to give us a couple inches to play with. And yeah, let's go. piece all cut out, and now it's time to start tacking it in place. Hey, go ahead. Other side. Butter. Back corner. Move the umbilical. Rip. All right, so we got the frame all tacked together, which will be good enough for holding it together for now. And the next step is going to be to put in a cross piece here on the back side for the front edge of the engine mounting plate. So yeah, that's going to be our next step. So I got this piece cut out to be the cross member in the frame that's got the front edge of the engine plate mounted on it, and now I've got to clean up the frame where I'm going to weld it and get ready to tack this bar into place. So after we get this piece welded in right about there, across the back, the next piece that we're going to have is a bar that runs from, it's going to butt up against the center of the front axle and run down the middle of the cart, and it's going to terminate on this piece that we're welding in here. So while I've got the frame all up like this, I'm just going to go ahead and clean up where that center bar is going to weld into these cross pieces here. So that one there, and then this piece too. I'm just going to go ahead and clean those up right now while it's easy. Got the bar in position, time to tack it in place now. right, so I just threw the frame up on the table and finished tacking in this bar here, and time to move on to the next step. So our next, and I think it's actually the final bar on the base frame. Wow, this is starting to move along here. But yeah, we're gonna have this center runner piece here that we're gonna cut off just at the end of this bar that we just threw in here. But yeah, the runner's gonna go from the back side of the front axle, and then it's just gonna run through the middle, and we're gonna weld it to the bottom side of this cross member here, and it's gonna get welded to the bottom side. Yeah, that's still hot. Of this cross member here too, and then just cut it off here and cap the end of it, just to add a little more material. All right, sweet. So we got it all ground down on the end where it's going to go to this cross member, this part here that's going to tack onto that cross member, and then we got the front cleaned up too where it's going to butt up against the axle. So good to go. Now it's time to just put it up there, clamp it down, and tack it in place. All right, so we got this center bar clamped into place, and then I'll tack one part, and then I'll move a clamp, and I'll tack the next part, and we're just going to tack it in place like that. All right, so got that one tacked in. Now move the clamp and tack here, and then same thing up there. All right, so I had some issues with my video, but we ended up getting the center section finished tacking that in. And yeah, flip the frame over, put it back on the ground, and I just realized I think that's it for the base frame. I think we have the whole base frame tacked together now. You know, we still have this push handle piece from the original shopping cart. That is going to become our seat back. And I think our next step is going to be to get this thing tacked into place and positioned somewhere about there. But yeah, besides that, our frame is completely done now. Well, at least tacked. And this is starting to actually look like a go-kart. From where it was not too long ago, it's been a lot of progress. So yeah, it's pretty nice to see, and hoping to make a lot more progress in the coming days and weeks.